Hi, and welcome to yet another ICF Live. Today, I'm extremely excited to have my colleague and friend, Coach Meg, with me. And, I was just thinking, how do I introduce Meg? Because Meg's got so many different titles. Her career is very robust and also took some interesting twists and turns. So I decided I'll let Meg introduce herself. So, Margaret, Meg, Dr. Moore, please.
Oh, Magda, I just want to tell you I love you. I really do. And I think we are in a stage where we can be in that place in relationships with people we care about. Because you're a wonderful human being, but also, the coaching world is big and expanding and kind of um, at a pivot point like everything in society. And I really think that you're one of my heroes, one of the leaders of the field that has got us to a good place and will carry us forward. So I'm honored to be in your company as a fellow leader in coaching. Um, so briefly, I'm a biologist with an MBA that spent 17 years in biotechnology during the whole era of genome discovery. So understanding the underpinnings that drive biology, which has happened in our lifetimes.
Mm.
And my both my husbands are scientists, not the same time. and and so I worked with scientists and physicians for all those years. And when I started in coaching, coming out of trying to find new solutions that cure disease, prevent disease, I saw coaching as a way, as a new profession that could foster, optimal health and well-being. And we didn't quite have all the data back then in 2000, but we now know that the way we live, what we think, what we eat, how we move, how we sleep, how we lead, how we are led, how work goes, all of that is driving our physiological health and our psychological well-being, whatever term you want. So I've always come at this from the what are the drivers of that. So when I started out, I really did spend time with the leading scientists, the Prochaskas and self-determination theory, motivation,
Right.
all the stuff that mindfulness. Those were the folks I read about, and then I'm self-taught. I created a coaching protocol, kind of building from that, which turned into school and and into the field, and then helped me bring that to the Institute of Coaching. So I would say that who I am is really about understanding the fundamentals of humans and helping us transform ourselves as fast as possible to deal with the huge challenges of
Mm.
our
Mm.
lifetimes, which weren't there, when we were younger. We kind of knew about the problems, but we've lived through the best maybe humans will ever experience, and now we're on the decline. And so, yeah, we got a lot of work to do to change ourselves, help people change who want to
Mm.
change, right?
Mm.
So hopefully that makes sense.
Thank you, Megan. And we've met 15 years ago. It's been a while that we know each other, and it was always quite fascinating for me to observe you coming from a different field, but with the zest for research, because understanding the credibility research, not only the understanding, right, but also the credibility that research was giving to any budding profession. We You mentioned mindfulness. We now have quite a lot of research
Mhm.
around that. Neurology, remember several years back, so much interesting important research came around how coaching works because of neuroscience. So as we look at it now, what would you say is the current focus, or what would be most useful for the coaching field coming from that very rigorous academic research?
Yeah, good. Thank you. So let me try to talk about it in nutshells. I think the first thing to say is that there's still a lot more to do to help coaches understand the best science that underpins coaching competencies, that ICF so beautifully laid out on a global fashion. So, like, self-determination theory starts with the idea that the human organism, has a natural tendency to be curious, to explore, to learn, to master the environment, and grow an identity that's integrated. So you're a happy, healthy human being. Just like a flower grows in the sunshine and good soil and water and not too much wind, so some protection and not too many pests. Humans are no different. So we're naturally wired to grow. It's not that we're not, and so, but we need nutriments that enable that to happen. And the first is that we need to find our own way, be authentic, understand our own values. We need autonomy. We need some independence, even in a more collective culture. We need to know where our life force is. We need to know what our heart wants. We need to know, because we're so socialized. There's so many social pressures. We don't even get in touch. Most of us don't feel that, that life force. Then the second thing is competence. And so we want to get better at things, right? And the third is we want relationships that support both what we want and what we want to get better at. So that's how we're wired. And that's what coaching does. So, and that's just one piece of it. Mindfulness is awareness and consciousness. Well, what we're doing is producing consciousness, all of that. So I think the first thing is that we've got an opportunity to spread the understanding of how the competencies actually, the researchers who toil long and hard at experiments and teams, they work as hard as anybody does. They publish stuff that none of us can understand, and it doesn't get no one. And because and one of the reasons I love scientists and I love their papers is because in biotech I had to read the scientific papers.
You're one of the few.
They were a lot harder to understand than psychology, I can tell you. The genetics are way harder. And so I'm not afraid to go into the literature and look at the gems in there. And so there's a lot of that. And we haven't even we haven't even mined what's already there that we know. Bearing in mind that psychological science is also not a hard science, so it doesn't necessarily hold up to be right. So you also have to be aware of that. So I think that's the first agenda. Then the second thing is, does coaching work? And we've now got, there's lots of criticisms of the quality of the methodologies, but I think there's almost everybody would agree it works. It's very heterogeneous. It's extremely where there's pure coaching, and then there's pure coaching with a little bit of leadership.
Sure.
Pure coaching, healthcare, there has to be a bit of a tutorial here and there. Pure coaching and whatever you want to call it. I like to use the word coaching and leading, because I do, as I'm over 60, I feel like a leader. And so I feel as though I'm often filling the role of helping people feel led. And so I think, we know that coaching works, and then there's a lot more we can do about what if we changed it a little bit and moved this, or there's some people need a mix of this and that, or at one point do they need this and not that. So I think we can do a lot more in understanding the nuances of how to use the coaching approach, but do different things that we haven't really fully, people kind of do it on their own, but we haven't really mapped that out as well as we could. And then I think from there, then we start. That's where ICF did that wonderful job. Well, let me just call out ICF. So Magda, I spoke to you. It was about a year ago, and said we're looking for a new a partner funder for the Institute of Coaching Research Grants, and you walked that through all the halls at ICF and came back. And then we walked through those halls at Harvard, and we came up with a with a wonderful alliance partnership around the research grants, and that's going fantastically well. There's a lot more than there used to. The other thing your group did was convene all the coaching scholars. Remember
Mm.
last September, there were 6
Yeah.
hours and 50 of us in different time zones. And, Angie and I at the Institute are really thinking about with you, okay, now let's turn that into a collaborative conversation. What are the next things we need to know about? And I've got my pet interests, but I think there is a collective wisdom we haven't yet tapped into. And there's a lot more to do to change the world. So there was a lot more to learn.
Right. I think that this is so interesting as you were talking about the does coaching work, and this is something that we've heard for years now. It's remember that little cartoon that there is just a huge big stuff and then the magic happens.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we're trying to define the magic with the outcomes, with the importance. Um, so many times I talk to people who experience coaching for the first time, or they would be talking about their first experience with coaching, and they would literally say, "It changed my life." And the question is how? They say, "I don't know. I know how to drive the car. I don't know how the car is built. And quite frankly, I don't want to know. But it changed my life. I am more effective. I'm a better person, whatever it might be." So I think, and yet somebody has to know how to build a car, right? So thank you for acknowledgement for ICF, but ICF has been always very keen on making sure that we have the magic, right? But we also have the science. We call it, even in our definition, art and science, because it is, right? It is the artful delivery of something that's based in science. And I am very excited about seeing application of coaching in different fields. Okay, it started with the individual. We then saw corporate world picking it up. We saw governments picking it up. Awesome. We start seeing not-for-profit picking it up. Healthcare was a little stubborn. Is that a fair statement?
Well, healthcare is as an industry, it's 20% of the economy.
Yeah.
And like education, those are the two. They're the hardest sectors of the economy to change for a lot of reasons, which we don't want
Mhm.
to. And they're very much driven by evidence. And so people need to see data. And the data around coaching, I mean, when we first went to the Harvard Medical School department to get approval for our first coaching and leadership in
Mhm.
healthcare they looked at some, back then Tony Grant had a bibliography, and they started to read some of the papers, and they just went, "This is
Uh,
this ain't good science, guys. Like this is not." And so, um, you know, and I helped them kind of focus on the studies where we had randomized controls. So they don't they healthcare. I mean, in a way, well, it's not just that, but it's a data driven
yeah.
place, and there needs to be data. And but I'm going to bring that back to the magic because because the because now there's more and more, the institute lives in the Harvard Medical School world, right?
Mm,
Um,
mm,
and actually, there's still a lot more to do in terms of those bridges, but there's such big problems today in healthcare with people burnout, and there's so much money goes into healthcare, almost nothing goes into people development
right.
and well-being. I mean, it's really a contrast with other industries. And so
Mhm.
when you put so little, like there's just no big career, like, you think about what a big corporation has almost. I was talking to somebody this morning about the way Goldman Sachs works in terms of like spotting when people are high energy and really, really productive and innovative. And when they start to flag, they move them to a place where they can get lit up again, right? So
Ah,
there's this very people approach. How do we help people thrive and move them around? In healthcare, they're too busy saving lives. And, with a 2% margin, there's no money. And so there's no money to spend on
mm,
it. So So, but even with that, the need is so great for the people development that the magic is getting experienced. And I want to get at that for a moment because in 2004 at an ICF coaching research symposium, um, out of that conversation was born the idea, which I put forward and pulled a team together um, on a theory for the intuitive dance, which is the
Mhm.
man, right? How does the neuroplasticity in front of your eyes, like the new connections of neural networks, which makes your face light up, how does that actually happen? And we came back a year later with a paper on, we called it relational flow.
Mhm.
Um, that has been what something that I think about all the time, like what actually is happening in that moment. And it is about the um, the shifting of perspective to see something you didn't see already. Whether it's a sense, it's a perspective, it's an idea, it's an insight. You have, like, your mind is opened to something you hadn't seen before. And we
Mhm.
hold the space for that, right? When you're taking up space in a conversation by, oh, this is what you should do, and oh, I've got a great idea for you, and have you tried that? There's no space for generativity. And we kind of stumbled upon, if you hold the space and you're very present and you're very attuned and you're actually calling the person to, even without saying it, how might you look at this differently?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
let the brain, which is multiple, change channels and move to some other thing. And so it is real. And I think when physicians and, like, folks who really need to see the data, when you talk about it that way, and you, like you said, I remember a physician long ago saying, Margaret, you don't have to try so hard.
Yeah.
We get it. You
Yeah.
don't have to give us this much science. We get it. There's something going on here. We get it. We understand.
Yeah, because through you and through the National Wellness Institute, there are so many wonderful stories about, well, back to the money. Yes, there is a money. It just needs to be refocused and repositioned to support people's growth. When you see the significant changes in either absenteeism or even retention of great physicians, right? When the culture of the organization is different, and that culture can be supported by the leaders who can be supported by coaches. So what is also quite fascinating for me, being in this field for quite a while, you mentioned earlier, Margaret, that I have a unusual seat, because it's not one table. There are multiple tables, and they are all, just twirling. Is where and how coaching is being applied, and where it may make the greatest difference in a specific organization, team, or system, depending where the pain point is, right? We, in corporations, we all hear a lot about, oh, there is the efficiency, there is this, there is that. Well, I just had a conversation earlier today, with a gentleman who happens to be on faculty of one of the largest universities in Middle East. And what they did, they changed the manager employee relation and the dreaded annual review, right? They change it. They loosely follow the Google approach, and they see phenomenal results. And it is not coaching per se of those managers or of those individuals. It is a coaching conversation that is happening, that, much to your point, is opening a person up for different way of doing things and different solutions. So I think you and your colleagues in science of coaching have job for 5 more lives, maybe 7, and that's great. So what do you also see on a horizon? I'm watching time a little bit. What you're seeing on the horizon as a next big thing we collectively, as a coaching field, should be really paying attention to?
Gosh, I mean, there are many things, and that's I think, especially as we emerge from the pandemic, we want to
Mm,
get
mm,
clear on what should we do next. And to some extent, I feel that is the question being asked: what should we do next? Um, I guess here's how I'll come at it. So, and everyone listening will probably already know a lot of this, so maybe hopefully I'll put it together in some way that is helpful. So, um, mostly in the workplace, and I'm guilty of that because I've been in the C-suite myself for the last 30 years, so I understand the focus on task and results. And at this point, and that's how we built institutions, economies based on focusing on results. And
yeah.
I think there's a shift in values, and we wrote about it in our report, Leading with Humanity, a year ago. There's a shift in values that was already there because those of us who didn't want to play the corporate game stayed out, and those who did,
Mm,
who could put results, wealth, growth, organizational growth ahead of human
right.
thriving and I think, and when you see this debate about, you must go back to work and be in the office X days a week, you hear the old patronizing parenting
Mm,
of the old way, as opposed to the empowering, inspiring, enlightening way of, okay, now what's the new way? And in that shift is a conflict and a struggle
mm-hmm.
between um, the organization which we've built over 100+ years, and the well-being of the humans in it. And I can speak as a woman, and we were talking a little bit before,
Mm,
I'm the million women in 2000 that left the corporate space and have been doing my own thing ever since. And we're now seeing that again. And so I think the shift in values is, and I was telling you, I was at the New York Stock Exchange 2 weeks ago because my stepson's company went public, which was unbelievably exciting. And
congrats.
it's a purpose-driven organization. And when the bell rang, what I heard is that capitalism is ready to value well-being and wealth as equal outputs.
Mm,
So organizations have the role not just protecting well-being, growing well-being, because performance and success gives you life satisfaction and confidence and competence. That's
right.
actually promotes well-being. And if you can harness that, and we'll ultimately be, and I think the biggest research question, which is, everybody I talk to says, Margaret, that's like way too big. You're trying to boil the ocean. But I think that's where the world is going, is that equation is changing. And I think coaches are on the front line of that because we sit with that, with our clients. We know that they're always torn between, is this good for me?
Mm.
Is this good for my organization? And so, yeah, so I think something in there is the agenda for
Yeah,
us, even if we take small pieces.
I think so because again, multiple conversations I had the privilege of being in recently point to the fact that organizations with strong coaching cultures happen to have greater engagement of their employees, well-being, happiness, and in turn they do see greater financial results. So it is a business proposition after all, right? It's not necessarily only, sounds light, but it's not, mind shift. But really, it is a different way of doing business. So I think that the more research we have around that, the more data we can show around that, the more eye openings maybe will happen, and certainly coaching can support that shift tremendously.
Yeah, I want to just parse something there because this is very important. Um, if we go to the conversation, this is just a better investment. There's the return on an investment if you put well-being equal to, then you can, what you do is you keep the transactional relationship between
Yeah.
the capital, the employee, and the individual. And the subtle shift is that I value your well-being as important as it is without polluting it with what I just care about you.
Mm-hmm.
And that, and I care about you. And, you know, we've got some tough challenges and we all need to grow, and let's figure out how to get there. And like, let's go, guys. Like we'll get better out of this. We'll come out of this stronger. So it's the real seeing people first. So instead of seeing through people to the results, which I'm guilty of, actually seeing people and relating to them as human beings first. And that we all have the ability to do that because we do it with our most precious relationships. If we bring that, we add that to the mix, genuinely caring, not transactional.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah, and again, as we talked before, the less than traditional application of coaching, we see more and more of it happening at the universities and even high school level, where the students are being cared for in a coaching manner, and some of them becoming coaches. So as they become leaders, their approach to seeing people is hopefully different than what simply the rhetoric was
yeah.
before. Yeah.
And
No,
it's not a parenting, like we're not taking care of
no,
you.
not at all.
I'm not, it's not my job to make your life easier, really. My job is to help you process that experience and grow from it and become a better, you know, the person you want to become. So it's not, it still has, you know, I don't want to use the word agenda, but I think we do hold the space, and the agenda is growth. You know, we
Yeah.
do have that agenda. We if we don't, then we're just hanging out with a friend. So we do have an agenda, which is I'm here really to be your partner in growing, and
Right.
whatever that looks like. And that's human centered.
Mm, mm,
That's not self-determination theory. It's self-determination. It's not self-acceptance. It's not today I'm fine. It's I want to grow. I want to get better. That's a
mhm.
really strong human need that gets downplayed and set aside for the task, right? So I really mean broadly when I say care about you. I want you
Sure.
to I want to help you grow, not just like just feel better in the moment and have more fun.
Right. Ah, deep breath because it was a big conversation. So, Meg, thank you so much for coming and joining us for our chat today. I hope it was as insightful for our viewers as it was for me. And rest assured, your phone will be ringing because we'll be talking about some of these ideas that you brought up in our conversation. And thank you so much for what you do and what the Institute of Coaching is doing as well, really spreading the important world about the about coaching and what coaching is not, and how it works. So thanks, Meg, and I'm sure and I hope that you will accept our invitation to one of those talks in the future.
I will. Magda, thank you. Thank you. You guys are doing a great job. And again, it's an honor to be part of the larger coaching ecosystem with you.